From The Australian, here's what's on the front. I'm Claire Harvey. It's Thursday, September 26. Australia's courts are bracing for an avalanche of appeals from international students whose visas have been cancelled or denied. More than 15,000 people have lodged applications for review, compared with fewer than 3,000 the year before. Hackers targeted the email inboxes of Victoria's fire chiefs in hopes of furthering the interests of the Firefighters Union. That story's live right now at theaustralian.com.au. First it was pages, then walkie-talkies, now rockets, and maybe next a ground invasion. As Israel turns its focus to Hezbollah, we explore what all sides want from this new phase of an 80-year conflict. That's today's story. On one side of the border, rocket fragments fall to earth. And huge conflagrations light up the sky. This is southern Lebanon, what some claim is evidence of ammunition and even rockets going up in flames in civilian neighbourhoods after being struck by missiles fired from Israel. On the other side of the border, in Israel, Hezbollah's rockets loom above houses and fields before being destroyed by interceptor missiles in midair in a series of booms. That's Israel's so-called Iron Dome, a defence system designed to eliminate incoming fire.
Well, I think this is the moment that everyone in Israel, and certainly people around the world who've been watching it, this is the moment that everyone's been dreading.
Yoni Bashan is a journalist with The Australian who's spent a lot of the past year reporting on conflict in the Middle East. Israel versus Lebanon. We've been here before. In 1948, when Lebanon and other Arab nations invaded the newly formed State of Israel. In 1978, when Israel invaded Lebanon, and again in 1982. In 2006, when the Iranian-backed militia Hezbollah infiltrated Israel and took 2 soldiers hostage, prompting weeks of conflict. And now, in 2024, it's on again. On Wednesday, Hezbollah fired a medium-range surface-to-surface ballistic missile at Tel Aviv. They were aiming for the headquarters of the Mossad, Israel's secret service. The missile was intercepted in the air. Israel says Hezbollah is hiding ammunition, including enormous cruise missiles, in domestic dwellings.
Hezbollah stores cruise missiles, rockets, launchers, and UAVs inside civilian homes, hidden behind the Lebanese population living in the village. We are monitoring these activities, locating the weapons, and destroying them with precise intelligence-based strikes.
It's the largest militia on the planet, basically. It has an enormous weapon stock, highly trained army, infantry, well supplied by Iran, well funded, and a war with Lebanon would almost certainly entail a high number of casualties, both militarily and civilian, and who knows where this is going to go.
Israel's military is formidable, but Hezbollah has the home advantage.
And whenever you have a conventional army versus a militia, one is always going to have the unfair advantage. And we're seeing that right now in southern Lebanon. So the footage and the information that's being released, mostly by the IDF, but also by Hezbollah itself, is showing that it's hiding its weapons, much like Hamas did in Gaza, beneath civilian infrastructure. And no conventional army operates in that way. And inevitably that means that when you have a conventional army fighting a war against such a foe, you're going to have a higher number of civilian casualties. You're going to have a higher level of moral calculus embedded in every decision that's made. And it inevitably makes the war a lot harder to fight.
This round of conflict began on September 19 with one of the most audacious espionage operations in recent memory, the coordinated explosion of hundreds of pages. and then walkie-talkies.
I have a message for the people of Lebanon. Israel's war is not with you. It's with Hezbollah.
That's Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu after Israel's apparent spycraft triumph, telling Lebanese civilians to move north.
This would seem to me to be a precursor to a ground invasion. They desperately wanted to avoid it. It seems like Hezbollah also wants to attempt to avoid that. It's a very strange equation because you've got both sides saying we don't want a war, and yet the fighting keeps escalating. The targeting, while measured as it has been between both sides, it continues to escalate.
Coming up, what this conflict could mean for the future of Lebanon.
في البداية ممكن تعطينا لمحة عن
This is a BBC reporter in footage from August 4, 2020, when Lebanon's beautiful, messy capital city Beirut was rocked by an immense explosion. Tons of ammonium nitrate had been unsecured at the port of Beirut for 6 years. Furious citizens protested the ineptitude and probable corruption that had destroyed their city. An investigation started and sputtered out. Prime Minister Hassan Diab and his cabinet resigned. There are still no clear answers about how this ammonium nitrate came to be in Beirut. It's been linked to Russian and Cypriot interests, to Iran, and to Hezbollah. That uncertainty is typical of Lebanon's complex history. Once a French colony, independent since the 1940s, but lumbered with a governing system that dictated key government jobs be sliced up between Christians and Shia and Sunni Muslims. In the 1970s civil war, a new force emerged, Hezbollah, a Shia political party and paramilitary, funded by Iran. But to what end?
Iran's endgame is to get US interests out of the Middle East and to destroy Israel. It always has been. Hezbollah's charter has basically sought the exact same. Hezbollah's endgame here is to wipe Israel off the face of the planet, just like Hamas as well. They are both separated by competing Islamic ideologies. Hamas is a Sunni group, Hezbollah is a Shia group, yet they have a common aim here, and the aim has always been to get Jews out of the Middle East, to get Israel out of the Middle East, and definitely get America out of the Middle East.
Israel and Lebanon are such close neighbours, beautiful subtropical countries on the eastern shore of the Mediterranean. It's the same kind of turf. It's like the road between Sydney and Brisbane. It's such a tragedy, isn't it, that Lebanon, which not so long ago was a relatively functional democracy, now seems to have fallen into complete chaos.
Correct. It is a great tragedy, no more so than for the people of Lebanon, who don't have a particular fondness for Hezbollah, who don't particularly enjoy the fact that they can't live in the south of the country without having their homes targeted or having their lives been put at risk because in a neighbouring village, Hezbollah has achieved a foothold and decided to launch rockets from there or store its munitions there. This is not a winning strategy for Lebanon. The Lebanese people know that. They don't want Hezbollah there. They don't want Iran in their country. And yet this is the situation they find themselves in. Hopefully, if anything positive is to emerge out of this latest round of fighting, it's that Hezbollah is degraded such that it no longer exists in its current form, and if perhaps there might be some real change in that country.
Yoni Bashan is a journalist with The Australian. You can read all our reporting and analysis of the conflict in the Middle East right now at theaustralian.com.au.